Welcome to another episode of My First Job, the podcast, where we explore career journeys in different fields and speak to people both experienced as well as youngsters looking to build their careers. My guest today is Kochat Narendran, and he belongs to the world of logistics. Now, he's been in this business for over 35 years, and logistics has moved from being something that happened in the background of our lives to the foreground, especially since e commerce became so prominent in our life. So, let's bring Narendran on board and figure out what his journey has been like. Hi, Narendran.
Hi, Venu.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Venu, for the invitation.
Okay, so when you say you are in logistics to people who may not be from the business, what is their reaction? What do they think that you do? What are the questions they ask you?
First of all, I think let me just share my experience, and I personally believe whether it's any industry in service, whether it's a because I started my career from automation to consumer electronics to logistics, which became my prime career path in my life. But I think the common thing is all were related to people, connection, relationship, which you have to give a solution. So I don't really differentiate logistic per se as a different industry per se in terms of what you'll
Okay,
do think about it. But I think since, as you rightly said it, now we are in the forefront, and there's a huge kind of opportunities in logistics like any other industry which people don't know.
okay. So when you talk to your students in class, you mentor students and you take classes in logistics as well. What is their impression of the business and what do they think about it?
Most of the students unfortunately looks at logistics as an operational subject.
Okay,
Whether the best of the institute students have the same view. Um, I think the only thing what I do is, though I teach supply chain management, which is an operational subject, but I think the challenge and is to bring about the opportunities in logistics, whether it could be in sales, whether it could be in information technology, HR, operation, and bring that in the forefront. It was my one of my biggest opportunities, which I shared with them. And number two, the supply chain management operational subject is so vast and so
yeah,
theoretical. So it was very important to relate the subject to oneself, saying that what does it mean to you? What's your life connected, and how's your life been made in till whatever you have reached? For example, a student has reached MBA classes. It has brought him from the kindergarten to high school to college to post graduation. Then I need to tell them that these are the blocks of your supply chain, which you address at every level, and
okay,
that's how it makes life easy for you. Because I think until you don't relate to what you want to do, it will be very difficult to get the passionate in terms of working. So I think it's very critical that
okay.
what you do, you should be able to relate to yourself, and then you will start putting things effort in the right direction.
So when you started, when you were in college, school and college, what were the kind of careers that you had in mind or briefly considered?
To tell you the truth, in our those days of 80s, 83, 85, I had no plan in terms of what I should be doing. I think it's a peer pressure, and you just joined the college because your friend joined particular commerce subject. I also joined. I think I had one interest to join defense navy, but then I think after
Okay,
the during the medical examination, because of my eyesight, I think it was ruled out. And then I think that's the only thing I thought about it. The rest was, I think, I strongly believed in destiny, and I think that took me long. And I think what I did was only focus on the personal skill training part of it by doing various certification courses during the entire career, and of course the values which stood a lot of times in a positive note, which I inculcated from the family. Sometimes it was against me, but I think end of the day, wherever I am today, I think it's because of that the training of the skills and the values. And if you ask me, no, only destiny carried me here.
So, which was the first job you landed? Do you remember any part of the interview? Do you remember how it went?
My first job was with a company which was Xerox, which was when came to India. They were recruiting whole lot of candidates after my graduation. That was my first interview, and unfortunately, I got the job. And I think few important milestone in my life happened through Xerox. Number one, that's the
Okay.
first time I got into an aircraft to move from
Okay.
Delhi to Bangalore. And
Okay.
number two, I think that's the first time I underwent, apart from the graduation, we went through a training program, rigorous training program for 15 days in selling, which I think was the base for me throughout my life, because that taught me um, how do you position yourself, how do you communicate, how do you connect, and how do you do the creativity in terms of innovative part of it, to make sure that how do you involve people. That base came from there. And yeah, that's Xerox days. And I think I cannot forget that Xerox was going in a big manner. They have taken around 350 or 400 people across India, and everybody was given a small territory to cover. And they said you have to go to every nook and corner, whether it's a barber shop, garage, panwala dukan, anywhere, but sell the machine. And I remember getting the first order from, I think I'll share the experience with you. We sold a machine to a garage, auto garage. And that's an experience, because I mean, what really happened was this garage owner
Okay.
was running the garage for 35, 40 years. And he had his grandson who was looking for some business opportunity. And that time, there's this
Okay.
photocopier shops, and those were just coming up. So here's opportunity for us to tell
Okay.
him that, okay, where we came from. The Xerox is the brand name, and whenever people say Xerox, this is the company what they talk about. The competitors are competitors. The
Okay.
real Xerox is Xerox. And here's an opportunity to set up a shop inside your shop. You can start a photocopying shop, which will be run by your grandson, and he can earn. We worked out a cost benefit analysis for him, and he could earn money. And I think that's the first shop we in Xerox we've sold into auto garage. I remember that's an
Wow.
experience actually.
Okay. You also mentioned that how you would take your technical personnel, or how you brought about a change in the selling method.
Yes, I think one needs to make sure they have some differentiating factor what they do, in whether it's selling to somebody or projecting themselves in the market, in the company. How do you differentiate from somebody else? I think that's a competition anyway. So
Yeah.
most of the salespeople, when they go for a presentation like any automation, they go with the product and demonstrate to the committee or to an individual, and try to oversell, um, assuming that they know everything. But I think that
Yeah.
that's where I thought an opportunity is there, that one cannot know everything anyway. So if I take an operational guy along with me, I get a time to understand the customer better when the technical question is answered by the operational guy. So I think at least 40 to 45%, when the customer relates the operational part of the manual or machine, it's easy for the sales guy to convince on the price, because that's the USP you bring in. So
Right.
after that, I remember Xerox standardizing that every presentation on a committee goes, there will be a technical team which goes along with the sales guy. And one more rule came in company saying that what sales guy should speak, where he should stop, and where the operation guy takes over.
Okay.
So that's a big exercise we learned from there.
So it's basically that the salespeople should not overpromise, and the salesperson and the service person, operational person, can give a very clear idea of what the machine is capable of.
That's number one. And number two, I think uh, we could talk later, but part of this negotiation program, sales guys should know where to stop, and
Hmm.
the other guy takes over, and when to intervene and what to say to close the sale. So this helped in that process.
Okay. Okay. So that would be going deeper into selling techniques, but I think here what we're looking at is how a career journey progresses.
Correct.
So, one of the things that you told me was that there was a competitor who was keeping tabs on you and tried to recruit you at various points in time to his company, which is a very unusual way of, looking at people. But I think somewhere down the line, he understood that if I have this person on my team, it will make a difference. Is that how you got into logistics?
Absolutely. I think that's what I said, the destiny, because as I said, I was in automation and then consumer electronics. So this was a gentleman who was my senior. He was now a competitor. So after a year or two, we used to meet very often in the market. And as natural, the competitor offers you a job. But I think this gentleman had something else in his mind. And he
Okay.
kept a track of me, what I'm doing, where I am. So I told him very categorically that it doesn't make sense for me to join the same product, jump from one company to another, because I'm working with the best company. But I think that he kept in his mind, and that's when there was a courier company, express company from Australia called TNT, which came to
Okay.
India. So he joined as a senior management team for India in Bangalore. So the one day he called me, he said, "Do you want to be part of the logistics?" I said, "I don't know anything about logistics." So he said, "Even I don't know, but I think we can sell." So, and that's how the
Okay.
journey began. And I think that's again a destiny said there's a turning point. And I said, okay, it's worthwhile now. It's a new industry. And somewhere I had read that logistic is a backbone for any manufacturing. So I had a very faint idea saying that it'll be interesting subject as we move on, but not a very concrete plan. That's the turning point where I got into logistics and we worked together for a few years. Yeah.
Okay. So, how did you build the business from the ground up?
Okay, okay. Let me just rather than saying theoretically, I'll share the experience. I was part of DHL for nearly more than 14 years, and DHL was a market leader in the express industry, which had around 80% market share. So whenever you speak, there was a complacency in the sales because they always felt that okay, customer will come to us. We don't have to go to the customer. So in one of the agendas we had was how do we increase by another 6% market share. So we
Okay.
had to go back to the board to the basics. So then we said, let's go to the courier boy who really goes and picks up the shipment from the customer's place. And let's understand how many shipments do we get and how many shipments does the competitor get.
Okay.
So all senior management team, including the sales guys, we were told, and we made sure that we went thrice a week or four times a week with them for a sale for the pickup, not for selling, for picking up the
Okay.
documents in the evening to the customer's place. So what regularly happens is a customer by 4:30, because normally the courier connections happens in the evening by 8 o'clock. So it has to reach the airport by around 6:37. So that means if you walk backwards, it should reach the office by around 5 o'clock or 5:30. So we go for the pickup. So when we go for the pickup, we see that there's a dispatch section which gives you the shipments, the documents, or whatever it is. They say, okay, now this shipment is supposed to be given to DHL, this shipment has to be given to TNT, this has to be given to Blue Dart, or whatever it is. So then we got an opportunity. Said, okay, we get the majority, no doubt about it. But equally, X number of shipments goes through Blue Dart and TNT. So why can't we pick a few
Right.
from them? Then we started making relationship with the dispatch guy because we thought, okay, we already got the sanction from the top management, the purchase manager, everybody, but there is a decision happening there who allots the documents to each courier company. So that was
Right.
another learning that it's not just the decision maker is one, but there's a deadly influencer sitting in the dispatch or reception. So we may have to make a relationship with them. That's what I said, the connection part of it, communication part of it, and get the additional business. And let me tell you, that really played a big role. And actually, at one point of time, we were having around closer to 90% market share in the express industry.
Wow.
We went to the grassroots and rewrote on the board saying that what we should do now. So that brought the team together and we worked together.
Okay. How do okay, now that online has become a very large part of, but this physical aspect of picking up couriers or picking up documents, Has a lot of it changed, or is it still the same? The dispatch clerk still has the same kind of power that he used to have earlier.
The only thing changed is, yes, the manual work is still on. The people have one has to go and pick it up, no two ways about it. The only thing has changed from those days in the 80s and 90s to now is technology has played an important role, because today's world, I think everybody looks on the track and trace information. Where is my document?
Mm.
So right from the pickup, so they have the scanner. So when a courier boy goes to pick up the shipment, he scans it. The scanner part of it is downloaded into the system, so it's all interconnected. So information is literally at the real time.
Mm.
Whereas in the 90s and all, it was not real time. We used to get a teleprinter machine which gives you messages. Then we know that shipment has moved from a place, let's say Bangalore, has to go to London. Maybe would have gone to Dubai as a hub, and from Dubai it has to fly to London. So we will know only once Dubai comes back to us saying that okay, these shipments have reached there, and it will take so and so flight to London the next day. So these all machines are through the teleprinters in those days. Now everything is real time. So that's changed, and all the courier boys are a little high tech in terms of these machineries. Otherwise,
Mm.
the core job and the business remain the same.
Okay. And but in terms of your role, apart from the selling, what are the other things that, in terms of management, what were the crisis areas and how would you handle them?
Crisis part of it, I can tell you the relationship is in DHL again, which I worked for major part of my life. There's a huge the service industry has got a lot of unskilled people in terms of the courier boys who are not well educated. They are the eighth class, 10th class people. So what
Occasionally,
what
yeah.
what sometimes happens is the managers misbehaves with the courier boys. They don't treat them well, which pushes them to form a union. So
Okay.
IR issue was a big thing that those days, which played an important role for their salary, and productivity was affected because they kept on demanding things. So I think one of the challenges, one of the things what I did was along with the management was how do we enhance the skill of a courier boy? What is his career path? Does he remain a courier boy, or can he grow to something else in terms of an entrepreneur, or in terms of growth within the company?
Yeah. Yeah. You're back. Yeah. So you were
Did you
talking
miss out?
about, yeah, I missed out. I think that part where you said the IR was a big problem at that
Yeah,
point in
I.
time.
So what I try to say is the people who are pushed to take being part of the union. So obviously for two reasons: one, the salary part of it; number two, they didn't see a career growth in the company. So what we, I think one of the things initiative we took was what kind of training we can give to these people, how we can enhance their career growth, so that they can earn more salary as when they grow, or can they become an entrepreneur by outsourcing certain activities to them. So we give an assurance. For example, we could give a kind of a van to them. Company buys a van and gives to them. It's you're the entrepreneur, and you handle this particular route, and that's your business. So that opened their eyes, and they felt that now the company is going to look after us, and they're going to talk to us business. They want to make us grow in the company, and I think that made a lot of difference. And I think within 3 years, we were able to crack the union. And I think if when I look back now, I think everybody's out of the union, and they're working for the company. So I think that was very successful.
Okay. So when it comes to all these different modes, which is goods are transported on roads, on rail, on by air, what exactly is the difference and how is it that product categories move across these lines? So is it that perishables are largely meant for air cargo, or is it a different thing altogether?
Perishable cargoes normally moves on air. You're absolutely right. The international and international specifically. In terms of road and sea are those products which can have a longer transit time. They said, okay, even if it reaches after a week or 20 days, if I'm sending out of the country, if I don't mind waiting for so and so, it'll become more logically feasible for them because the cost effectiveness will come there. And transportation, specifically now in India, has become much more efficient, and actually it is competing with the airlines, and especially regional sectors. People prefer road than air because you can reach faster in 5 6 hours. So things are improving, things are changing, and air is taken only in terms of very, very priority shipment, just in time for the factory to manufacture something of that sort. Otherwise, people normally prefer sea, and sea for international and road transportation for domestic.
Okay. Okay. The other thing about logistics is, how do you manage to figure out when cargo that is legal and cargo that is illegal? The government has a set of things which is there, but how do companies figure out? Uh, I was told, for example, that Speed Post, one of the things they do is that they ask you to pack things in front of them. You can't send a Speed Post without showing them what you're actually transporting. But obviously, for private companies, that is not an option. So, how do
No,
you, huh?
no. I think private companies also, way back in 1998 or 99, uh, they started this rule of what you're rightly saying: the any courier which comes into the counter to book a shipment, its instruction is given that nobody can accept a shipment. They have to open and see what is it. Nevertheless, still you can get a wrong shipment, because at certain point of time we found that people are smarter than us, and there was a contraband items which was exported on a wedding anniversary album. So you have
Wow.
photos. So he comes and gives you the album to you to send to XYZ place, and you look at the
Okay.
photos. Yes, yeah, that's the album. Nothing to worry. But what they do is between the two pages, the plastic sheets, inside the plastic sheets where they had all these powders, everything kept, and
Wow.
they were exporting it, which probably a layman cannot get it. And this normally is held at the airport by the narcotics guys or CBI guys who gets a tip off. But that we cannot. Nobody can do it. Nobody will know about it. So I have seen
Yeah.
the contraband items. I've seen gold, which comes through electronic. What do you call the induction stoves? Inside the induction stove, the material is gold. So how do you know that? We don't
My
know.
God.
So we do maximum precaution on two things. One, we like to see open it up in front of back in front of us. Number one. Number two, we take the KYC of the customer. So he has to produce his PAN card or identity card, which a photocopy is taken and kept, because tomorrow if there is a problem, we are able to say that okay, the necessary documents are with us, so the authorities can take the necessary action based on that. But we cannot
Yeah.
rule out everything across the counter because it can go beyond that.
But that wedding album example is incredible. How does someone even begin to suspect that there is contraband in the pages between the photographs?
In this case, I think it was a sheer coincidence, because I think the courier boy in the counter, when he got it, probably, I think I can't remember the whole thing. Probably, I think when he was moving the pages, he could feel some kind of a movement within the pages, sound or
Ah,
something of that
okay.
sort, and he could see some layer going up and down.
Okay.
So he called his superior and said, "There's something like this. What do we
Okay.
do?" So then he called the team, and by the time this guy left,
Okay.
the one who came to book the shipment, by the time
So,
by the time we were calling the senior guys, the guys left.
okay. What are the other kind of methods you've seen which people use to hide or make shipments? Because I'm saying this is something that I'd never in my dreams thought that people would even think. So obviously, anything is possible. I
Absolutely,
can,
absolutely. I'll tell you a story when I think somebody exported goods. This is not a courier. This is a cargo I'm talking about. I'm talking about a commercial export
okay,
business. He exported around 3 or 3.5 tons of what he declared in the packing list or invoice list as sulfur powder or something.
Okay.
Okay, so the sulfur powder is supposed to come with all the certification required from the authority, and he
Right.
managed to get some kind of a certificate which was not the right one, and it was exported to a country in Southeast Asia. But of course, these things get tip off when the company they come to know about it, and once or twice he'll do it, but then tip off will come because somebody will play a major role there and give the tip off. But end of the day, when you go back in search of the KYC form, which factory where, there'll be nothing there.
Okay.
But they do, and it goes in tons. We don't know. But yes, nowadays there are a lot of X-rays and checking, and I think vigilance and intelligence has become strong. So it may go in bits and pieces. The larger ones may happen once, but I think they're able to cover it up and catch up quickly.
Yeah. No, I guess everyone has the last mile problem. The legal shippers as well as the illegal shippers.
Correct.
you you can mail it or you can send it through the large channels, but the final delivery which has to happen
Doesn't
is
happen.
still,
Correct.
it's easier for legal than for illegal, which is why I
Absolutely.
think they get yeah, because I've heard of the dark web and how people send just one tablet in
Yeah.
an envelope and things like that, because they have to use a bona fide channel
Correct.
to send it to people. And in most cases, people believe that if it's just a letter, then no one's going to put one tab or, and it's stuff like that which they found which means that they must be spending a lot of time trying to review the logistics systems and
It's a
seeing where they
continuous.
can break it.
Yes, as from the operational perspective, they're looking at all kinds of technology or maybe some kind of X-ray machines in the office. Whole lot of things are happening on a continuous basis. How to make sure that these kind of things doesn't happen from the express industry or a cargo industry. But sometimes it just gets in, and you don't know, and until it's hell breaks out, and then we are all looking after what went wrong and how to be corrected. Yeah.
So what happens then if something is found? Then investigations begin,
Yeah,
or
we
the
we
police
we
is
inform the narcotics. If this is a contraband, we inform the narcotics cell that so and so has come and so has left. In the last case, the guy left the office, so we had his KYC. He forgot to take the KYC from us. So we give
okay.
all the documents. This is what he gave us, and then they take it over from there.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and if we don't call them, and if it's caught in the airport, then of course we are also called and questioned because they don't leave anybody. And
Okay.
they call us and question us, saying, "What role did you have in
Okay.
this?" Because they suspect everybody. For them, everybody is suspect. They may think that okay, somebody's got some
Okay.
kind of connection between them and they're selling it, so everybody is questioned. So it then becomes nasty.
Okay. Okay. So typically, how do companies manage to? The only way you can sort of ensure that you've got your processes right and you have
Correct.
performed all the checks as per a norm, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's how, and
That's
then you have to sort of add to that whenever there is an incident or whenever there's a break in the system, right?
correct. And then whenever we come across these new ways of doing things, when the things are exposed, then we make sure that next time something like that comes, we really check those things again, whether it's repeated or not. So that becomes part of
But
the checklist.
But then every time something like this happens, it's a bit like accounting. When you have more and more ways to beat a system, the safeguards that you put into a system become far more expensive for the company because a process is being added or there is a check being done.
Yes.
Does that affect how the business runs, or is it something that you say that is part of doing business?
No, I think sir, most of the multinational companies nowadays, what they're doing is they're very, very conscious and clear that they want to make the process so strong, and they adopt things like maybe an ISO certification, or they may go into a Kaizen program, consultancy, and put a program to that. Or every industry express industry has got certain quality check process certification. So they implement those things to make sure that they're certified as a they follow the process. So most of the companies do that, but I'm not saying that even after doing that still can happen. But that's where I think the company will say that, okay, how do we make sure it doesn't happen tomorrow, next time, the same thing should not happen next time. There are certain companies who doesn't follow anything, and it can keep on happening many times. But there are a lot of companies who capture this and work on that and make sure that doesn't happen next time.
Okay. Okay. So between these various things, do you find that okay, there are a few companies like the big ones which you've worked for, which is like DHL and TNT and these people. But is logistics also about some very specialized operations? I've heard of companies that will only focus on one product category or a certain kind of manufacturing. Is that a business model? So, for example, something which is very hard to move. So, they specialize in doing that rather than a whole set of things. Or how is the industry structured?
Uh, Predominantly, yeah, what you said partially true. There are specialized logistic organization which is called the project companies, project logistics,
Okay.
which they handle typical type of a project of moving a plant from plant A to plant B. Suppose somebody wants to dismantle a plant in India and take it to Korea. So they will entire logistic part of dismantling it, clearing it, shipping it, and assembling it in the Korea part of it. Yeah, there are
Okay.
project logistic companies, but predominantly now I think what's happening is is getting consolidated. So all the big guys in the industry are trying to become an expert in multifaceted ways, saying that they can give a solution for all verticals of the organization's requirements. So all the big guys have got all the things, whatever I said in terms of projects, they also have. So it's getting consolidated and becoming a number of players are getting number limited. Now maybe we'll have around, though we have in the freight forwarding fraternity, we might have numbers as big as 10,000 plus. But the actual players who really do international big ones are only 10, 20, nothing more than that. So, and that is also
Okay.
the now in the world, it's getting acquired, acquisitions happening. At least to best of my knowledge, in the last 4 years, there are around 15, 20 companies been acquired, and now that has become two company. So I think its
Okay.
acquisition is going on now. I think so. To that extent, I would say three or four or five will be the prominent players as we go down maybe the next 2, 3 years.
So when some young people today are looking for options in logistics careers, where do you think they should start? What are the things that they need to keep in mind as to what kind of experience they need to acquire in the early years?
This is my thought. This is my, maybe wrong, maybe right, and this is
Yeah.
what I've been telling the students when I went, because through my experience, I felt that it's important for a logistic industry guy to know a little bit of the market. That's where you not only learn to sell the product, number one, you are learning a lot of psychological way of handling people.
Okay.
So that's very critical for person to learn that kind of a skill. He may not be a good salesman, he may not sell, but he'll start learning these aspects, and which tomorrow can be very useful for any other department. Suppose he becomes, a person can move from a sales guy to an operational guy tomorrow, which I have done. He can move, and when he becomes in the operational department, he's more, uh, he understands the business more because he has sold the product. So
Okay.
now he knows what the customer wants, and then he talks the language of business in the operation.
Hmm. Okay.
So that gives an opportunity for a job rotation within the company. So if a company which
Okay.
does a job rotation is where the success comes in a big way. Predominantly, a lot of times what happens is especially in colleges, they segregate the subject as operation and sales.
Hmm.
They're two different. When you go to
Right.
recruit somebody, they say, okay, these are 10 guys from operations, these are three guys from sales. So
Okay.
I'd say no, bring them all along. So, and 80% has
Okay.
happened that I've taken majority of the students from the operation for sales, because I
Okay.
think you need to guide them. What is the future? Where do you grow? I mean,
Yeah.
an operational guy joins an operational section, his growth is very, very limited in a slower manner. A sales guy, if he does well, he just
Shoots.
shoots, and then he can decide whether I want to
Yeah.
go from operation to sales or sales to operation. He can do it. But that's my thought. I may be wrong. I may be right. I don't know. But I've seen many people succeeding in that. I moved a guy from. I'll give you an example of DHL days. There's a gentleman, a sales guy, and one day I met him, and when I was asking him, "What are you doing? What are you studying?" and all those things, he said, "I'm studying HR." So I said, "What are you doing here?"
Okay.
So so I said, "Are you keen to go to HR because you are studying HR? So doesn't make sense to you to study HR?" So he said, I don't mind. So the next day I pushed into HR. And I don't want to name the guy. I'm sure if he's listening, he'll understand whom I'm speaking about. Now he's HR director of a company.
Okay.
And I think I always said in the beginning, I think my whole journey till now, the success has been because I had deadly colleagues with me and who are very successful and made me successful because of that. So I've sent,
Okay.
I think most of the guys probably will be listening. They'll understand that. I think that's the way we worked.
Hmm. But how do you decide, for example, somebody is good at operations? Because in most of these things, the abilities as to, in certain places, you need to be more organized. In certain places, you need to have the ability to build relationships. In certain other places, it's about an eye for detail. So, how do you see people transiting from different aspects of what the job calls for?
An eye for detail is definitely one of the things, as you rightly said, important for the operational part of it. But I think apart from that, once that is identified and this guy is good in that, I think the most critical thing in the operational is relationship and communication. These are two things which we drive the operation department because they are the ones who communicates to the in one way to the sales department, another one to the customer, and they become the bridge for sales and the customer. So until they don't understand the business, uh, the whole gamut of things will not work the right manner. So I personally feel that's why I suggested that a guy from sales get into operation. He will, and if he has got eye for detail, and he builds the relationship part of it with operation, he understands where the customer is coming from. So he's able to bridge. Otherwise, things will work in silo, and
Hmm.
that's where the problem starts. So I think the regular training, regular communication, uh, if this is not being done, I'm looking at the other scenario. I think it's very important for the organization to keep the cross-functional team training program happening in regular intervals and having a discussion, having kind of a process within the system where there's a cross-functional team meeting happening every week so that one understands each other. If they don't do any kind of innovative things or what I said earlier, they want to do a conventional manner, this has to be done. Otherwise, it will not work.
Okay. Now, I've known you for over a decade, and one of the things that I know is that you've built a fabulous network of friends and people. How do you find the time, or does it come naturally to you? Because some of these things you have to. I can't, for example, I can call up people every couple of months or so and have a long conversation with them. But I think you find the time to actually go meet people, spend time with them. You've introduced me to so many new people during different visits. So you seem to do that without any effort. Does that come naturally? So how do you blend these two things?
I think one is I like it. That's that the most important thing is like meeting
Yeah.
people, and I don't call people from one place to another. I never call on the telephone or something much, but I do make sure that if I'm in a particular city and if I know that these guys are there, I make it a point that I could meet in the evening, meet them, talk to them, keep the connection on, and I think that's worked for me. I think that's, as I said, that's one of the things has really worked for me, and it's just come. I think it's natural. Yeah, it's happened.
Yeah. Some of these things, I think it's very hard to go back and sort of analyze it and figure out why you do it, because
Mm.
to people who do it, it's the most natural thing in the world.
Yeah,
But for people on the outside, they're saying, but I don't function that way. So, and I think you find out for yourself what you're good at and what you do based on how you operate, because I don't think that there is one way of operating or one way of doing things which
correct.
is the right
Absolutely, I agree with you on that.
way. Okay, so let's talk a bit about your currently involved in setting up a cargo airline. So, how do you go about sourcing planes? How do you know where a plane is available?
I think before getting to the plane, I think I got into this project at the later part of my age, at the age of 58 or 59. So the questions, I didn't know the subject. I said I was never an airline guy, and I was a logistic guy, but not an airline guy. Though
Okay,
they are interconnected and they serve each other, but it's a different product and different business part of it. So I didn't know anything about it. But only one thing I knew is the airline cannot work without the freight forwarder.
okay,
So that was the trump card I had because I know the freight forwarder.
okay.
So,
So,
so
just explain a bit about freight forwarding. What does freight forwarding involve?
freight forwarder is a company which moves a cargo from point A to point B domestically and internationally,
Okay,
and they use the service of airline or a
okay,
shipping line to move the goods to different parts of the world or within the network. So
okay,
I was most of my part of life was in the freight forwarding, where I used to go to the airline or a
okay,
shipping line and ask for space and give the shipments to them. And here
okay,
was an opportunity when I had to set up an organization, which is an airline, and I had to bring the forwarder to my gate, saying that okay, now can you give me the space? So it's a
okay.
two different side of the table.
Right.
So that's number one. And number two, setting up an airline per se, as I said, frankly, I was not from the industry, so I didn't know a clue. But only card I had was 35 years of experience in forwarding, and I know that I could get business into the airline. But here
Okay.
the challenge was I had to get the airline also. Okay, so that
Yeah.
was something new learning. So the first thing I do, I think what I went through the last 3 years is I had to unlearn a lot of things because I worked in
Okay.
a senior position in a lot of multinational organizations as the head of the organization. And here's a startup where there were two guys, me and the chairman, when we started
Okay.
off. Then slowly the sales had joined me, and we had three people, four people. So
Right.
literally from the scratch of market survey to meeting the forwarders like a frontline sales guy, asking them what will be the requirement if a new airline comes, what will be your requirement to which country, get those data in place. So we had
Right.
to get the data in place. Then we had to get some kind of a memorandum of understanding with the clients. When I say client freight forwarder here, that they will work with us. So we
Right.
had to do that. These are all frontline. This suppose can be done by anybody, but we got down. That's why I said we had to unlearn, had to go to the field and make sure we did it. And then once we got this, did an analysis, we said, okay, this is the area we need to fly. Southeast Asia is one area to fly. Now the next question is two process. One, organization buying their own aircraft, which is a long drawn process which the chairman was working on because
Okay.
he's champion in the industry in terms of he's a pilot, he was ex-pilot, and he knew what to be done. So he was handling the technical part of it, he was handling the sourcing part of it from perspective of getting the civil aviation approvals and all those things. Predominantly
Okay.
my assignment was to find the test market. So what
Okay.
we did is we chartered the aircraft. So I have to source for a chartering aircraft which could fly for us for 6 months, 8 months. So we went through headhunting the sourcing companies where I can not lease out, charter an aircraft for few months. So we chartered the aircraft. We flew the aircraft for 6 to 8 months to test what we decided this is the area we're going to fly. Is it the right one? So we were able to appoint our partners at the destination because when you fly a cargo, you need to have a partner to receive it at the other end, and there should be a
Right.
partner who will help us to push it from this end. So what we call in our terms GSA, General Sales Agent. So we had a general sales agent in India, we had a general sales agent in Singapore. So we moved cargoes up and down. During the journey, we found that okay, from Singapore we can fly to Jakarta or we can fly to uh, Bangkok, neighboring countries where we can expand to. So that was another learning for it. So this 9 months of chartering taught us the opportunities in the region. Meanwhile, our
Okay.
chairman played the role of getting the aircraft for themselves, for ourselves. We just finally touched down last week. It's under the
Okay.
process of Civil Aviation Department. It will go through the process of getting the confirmation and the process approved by them. I think we should be airborne by October end or November first week, which will be our own aircraft, which we hopefully we should be having two aircrafts to start with. One is already landed, the other one should be landing in the next few weeks.
Okay.
Once that comes in, I think whatever we tested, I think we're going to use that as a initial line of operation to expand the business from that perspective.
So what happens? What are these aircraft? Where are they before you acquire them? What is the life cycle of an aircraft? In the
Okay,
sense, how
first,
do you know that this is available?
okay, first of all these aircraft which we go for cargo aircraft
Hmm.
should be less than 25 years of age, less than that
Okay.
from the manufacturing date. So that's the thumb rule of a DGCA. Now, in terms of sourcing, majority of these leasing companies are in Ireland
Okay.
and Dublin and in US.
Okay.
So all these companies, and they're big, and they are the one who lease out the aircrafts to us, and so we approach them and we say, okay, we got a project approved by Government of India, and this is the certification what we have, and we submit our documents, and the government says, okay, now you have the permit to import a
Hmm.
flight. Sourcing is our job.
Okay.
So once we get that approval, then we tell the lessors saying that we have the approval from the Government of India, and these are our credentials or whatever it is, and then the negotiation starts for the leasing the aircraft.
Hmm.
So there's a leasing negotiation happens, and then once the leasing is done, then we have to make sure that insurance part is done for the aircraft. So the insurance part is done after that. And once the insurance part, everything is done, we have to move the aircraft from the origin, which is, let's say, Dublin or US. It has to move into India under their certification. It's not India registered, it's the full foreign registered. It comes to India registered, and then it has to be deregistered. So they go
Oh.
back. So we have to deregister the aircraft. So the process of deregistration is happening now for us. So once the deregistration happens, then we paint the aircraft with our name and branding, and then the PR activity starts. Our aircraft is landed,
Okay.
and then it takes
Okay.
another 1 month to 40 days for the entire process of the test flying and other ground handling operational manual to be approved from the DGC. It takes another 30-40 days. It's a cumbersome process, no two ways about it, and we need to
Yeah.
have all. Pardon?
No, it's a lot more complex than registering your car.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not so easy. And it took us 3 years, um, 3 years and few 6 months. Finally, the aircraft is landed. So it
Okay.
was not an easy
Wow.
project. So it's good now.
Yeah.
It's feeling
I
good
can
now.
imagine.
It's feeling good
Yeah.
now, and I'm sure we'll touch the sky in the next 2 months.
And the fact that there are so many things that have to parallelly go on. You're saying evaluate whether the market exists, if
Correct.
you're going to get market share, and then you've got to be able to see if you can get uh, loads to every day on a continuing basis. It's not as if it's
Absolutely.
a
Yeah.
certain this thing, and then take it forward from there,
Absolutely.
which I don't think. you and so this could only have been carried off with your experience in the industry, right? If otherwise, it will be too much of a. If you don't have the network, if you
Th-
don't
th-
have the people you know, if you don't know what is involved, then I
I think
think the learning curve will be much steeper.
that's why I said at the beginning itself, I think wherever I am today is a destiny, because fortunately for me, all my proteges are the directors of the company of freight forwarding companies today, most of them. So the entry is
Okay.
easy. So maybe
Okay.
I can hold on to another 5 years because those guys are there. They're young.
Yeah.
Maybe after
Yeah.
5 years, maybe then I am also an outdated guy and somebody else will take it over.
No, but it's also a great lesson as to how long-term networks are so important. It's not
Correct.
just somebody you meet today and then say, okay, I'll see you at some point in time. Because people tend to feel that efficiency and how good you are at something is the only thing that counts. But very
Net,
often this is a complex chain.
absolutely. And networking is critical for any business opportunity, I feel, because I think end of the day, it's a small world, and I think one of the way you can crack your business is somewhere you add value to the whole thing, and the only value you
Yeah.
can add to is through network. And you know
Right.
somebody, he puts a value to it, and then your credibility goes up, and then you build on
Right.
from there.
Right. So we've been having like this. We've been having a creative Sagittarius is a person called Hari, who I think has been a regular viewer for every one of the episodes. And he comes in, and I think he finds each one of these sessions, as far as which is exactly what, even for me, every single session that I have with a person from a different business or from a different field altogether or different career tends to give us insights that we would never have got unless you speak to someone who's been in that business for a long time and knows
Absolutely.
what is involved. Okay. So, like you said, okay, understand the business, understand customers. So, do you think what are the courses available in logistics that people can do today? Young people who want to get in, what are the kind of courses they can do?
I think now, I think the logistic courses are coming in a big way into India, and I think to best of my knowledge, Government of India has set up a program called Gati Shakti, which has got
Okay.
supply chain academy excellence being put by TVS Group in Chennai, and TTK Group, which is coming into a tie-up with Singapore University for promoting the logistic courses in the school level, graduation level, and post-graduation level, with kind of an MS with Singapore University. So they're going a big way, and it's going to be launched in the next few months. What I was told. So I think in the next academic year, you can see in the papers where you will see that logistic in management in logistics, MBA in logistics, and MS from Singapore University. And I was told as late as 2 days back that there's a South Korean university is also coming to India from the logistics supply chain management perspective, who's going to give a dual degree of MBA from Indian University, and MS from South Korea. So this is, I think this is you. It'll be in paper in the next few months.
Okay. So I think your story about the aircraft is something that
Yeah,
Deepa's
story.
found fascinating because these are not things that you think about. If you wanted to buy a plane, most people think of, but if you were to actually set up a cargo airline, how do you go about doing it?
Good. That's
Okay,
nice.
so these courses now, I think having been in the business for so long, where has your catchment normally been? Is it that you take people from various management institutes or from the regular stream and then train them for logistics up to a certain thing, or is it on the job which they learn and that's how they get move forward?
The core, obviously the core team or core team members in the big in the senior level obviously is from the background of the industry, similar industry or the same industry. I will not say airline per se. Maybe a freight forwarding guy could come into an airline guy could go into freight forwarding. But yes, we take management guys in terms of all the technical areas. We take management students to groom them up. It could be in operation, it could be there, because every airline has got a software system which manages not only the business, it also manages the flight operation. So definitely there are opportunities where we'll take MBA students and groom them up so that they understand the business, and then they move from there to whatever level they want to grow within the system. Yeah, that's how what we're looking at.
And I think one of the things that logistics can definitely claim is that while the back-end processes can be automated,
Yep.
these jobs will remain. AI is not going to be able to remove the physical aspects of moving things around
I think
because that will still.
AI threat is coming now, but I think missed out to say something uh,
Yeah,
way back in 1995 when the automation was starting with a massive computer system coming into place. Somewhere, I think again, I would say it was a roadmap made for me, and I never took interest in the technology. I'm sure a lot of people who are hearing me may not like it. I never took interest in the technology. It made my presence in the shop floor, and I think
okay.
that will continue forever. Whether anything comes, there are certain things which one has to meet each other. So
It
maybe
can't
that's my
be.
story. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. It can't be handed off to a machine and then say, "Okay, handle it."
No.
It won't
So
happen.
so that's
So
that's the service industry.
give me Do you remember an incident of a crisis which really tested your, you're saying, uh, why did I get into this? Or, what is the point? Was there ever a situation like that which was, and how did you sort it out? Do you remember anything that came up?
And that, I think that was my third day of my joining a multinational company, where
Okay.
we had this IR issue, and my predecessor had done all the appraisal of the whole company, and then I had to go and give the increment letters to people, and where
Okay.
you had the union guys throwing the letter back at me,
Okay.
saying that what the hell is this, and we didn't want this, and I had never faced an IR issue in my life, and I was totally a business
Okay.
guy and those things. So that's when I thought for a moment, where the hell am I, and what I'm going to deal with these guys. I have just
Okay.
joined 2 days back, and I'm giving a letter to them, and they're throwing back to me, and what do I do? But yes, that also taught me from there how to be present in the shop floor to work with them. And end of the 3 years, we cracked the whole team out of the union, and we were sitting together and having drinks together. So that was a winning point. So the date of joining, I had a problem, but end of 3 years, we had a good time.
Okay. Terrific, Narendran. We've
Thank you.
actually spent a whole hour talking. And so, any final thoughts on what is it that you want to tell people who are getting into logistics? What are the kind of things they should expect, and what are the things that they should be realistic about?
First of all, I would say to any aspiring logistic guy who wants to be part of the logistic, is a huge growth opportunity for the next 20, 30 years in India, with the infrastructure growing and manufacturing taking a big space in Indian industry. Logistic is going to become a backbone, and opportunities are going to be like nobody can say about it. I think that's a huge opportunity in logistic, number one. Number two, in terms of education, you're going to have an opportunity to study from the best of the universities, in conjunction with Indian universities, who will bring things on your table where you study here, then probably you can go out, study and get the degree, and you either you can continue working there or come back to India. And I think today India is a better place to work in terms of opportunities per se. And you have opportunity in every field. It's not just operation. Marketing has got a huge role to play, because now our role starts in marketing the aircraft, because we need to make sure that the branding is done into the market to
The
sell.
business has to run. Yeah. You
Run.
bought the
So
aircraft, now it needs to get business.
it has to be visible. How it has to be
Yeah.
visible, and information technology is going to play a major role in terms of integrating various departments and customers for ease of communication and ease of doing the business. And yeah, so you have sales, you have an operation, and to manage these things, you require an HR department to manage the people. So there's going to be a huge human resource department to manage the whole thing. So like any industry, this has got a very good large base, and which could also give you a major opportunity of learning how to interact with people. That's the best thing I learned in the last 30 years, which I don't think any manufacturing company will give you. That's logistic can give you that.
Okay. Thank you, Narendran, for that very informative and extremely entertaining bit, especially like Deepa said, the part about buying planes. Not everyone in logistics will have the opportunity to buy a plane, but at
Correct.
least you. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming on
Thanks.
board, and it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Venu. Thank you very much.
That was Kochat Narendran, who has spent an entire career in logistics and automation. So, for anyone who's looking for options on career options, all you have to do is tune in every week and then listen to career journeys as experts and experienced people tell us about how they got ahead. Thank you, as always, for listening.